1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Good morning, guys.
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, I noticed that I told you guys good morning, but some of you on the East Coast and overseas, it's not morning for you. But it is Labor Day. It's a holiday, communist socialist holiday. So some of you may be sleeping in, so it feels like morning to you. Nice. Happy Labor Day. It is nice to have a little day off, half day off for me. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time, Monday, September 2nd, 2019. I keep on getting the day wrong. I put the 1st, the 3rd. What a mess. Live in the 4th hour of Jesse Lee Peterson's video show stream and also audio stream on jlptalk.com. Go to jlptalk.com, click listen, and you can find the audio stream there if you don't want to listen over video. And then go to my website, thehakereport.com, and I upload the podcast later and the individual video. It is Labor Day. It's Commie Day. Commie is a banned word on Twitch. Amazon owned Twitch because they are commies. They're communist sympathizers, right? They call us Nazi sympathizers. They're communist sympathizers. So it's a socialist holiday celebrating the unions, as I explained to Jesse Lee Peterson earlier this morning. Pretending to celebrate workers, right? Unions are trouble. They're corrupt, spoiling, just inducing people to be lazy, force people to pay dues to them, and then they support Democrats and everything evil. They take too many breaks. You ever heard of a union break? Well, you have now, because I would be like, okay, I just started the show. Now I got to take a break, guys. Drink some coffee, smoke a cigarette, go outside, call somebody. That's a union break. 15-minute union breaks all the time. And the idea was that these employers back in the olden days used to be so oppressive to the workers. Maybe it happened. They because everybody's corrupt, right? But the workers are corrupt too. And then under unions, they get overpaid so that normal non-union workers are like way paid less, much more closer to market value, right? They get lazy. Some of them, I assume, are good people. And they are because they support Trump. Not everybody who supports Trump is good, right? But it's a good thing to support Trump. I respect workers and employers, both of them. But the unions don't respect employers, I don't think. I respect the regular union members if they're respectable people, just as President Trump does, by the way. He gets along with the regular guys, the workers. Have you noticed that? He's like them. I noticed that I watched this movie when I was a kid called Newsies. It was a Disney movie, pro-union. It was actually about paper boys that would deliver papers around the city of New York, I guess, or something. And the oppressors at that time was like, what's his name, Pulitzer and Hearst, the people that owned the papers or whatever. And so these boys unionized and organized a strike because they felt that they had poor working conditions, I guess. But I noticed that it was pro-union propaganda. And that Batman anchor who played Dick Cheney recently in the Fox News in the anti-Bush movie, Christian Bale, I think he's dumb and liberal, if I remember correctly. Hates Trump. He played a newsie. So, and by the way, so is Russell Crowe, who, the Gladiator actor. He played Roger Ailes in the anti-Fox News. I confused him with Christian Bale. Anti-Fox News little series that he had going, or movie, whatever. And probably so is Joaquin Phoenix, speaking of actors. Joaquin Phoenix, people like some of his movies. But he bragged that he went mad transforming into the Joker. Most of it was just from losing a bunch of weight. But he went mad just like dead Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger is another actor who played Joker and went crazy, supposedly accidentally overdosed on psychotic medication, whatever, and he died. He's dead. But the main stuff, these Hollywood people, a bunch of liberals. They don't know what they're talking about. And neither, by the way, does Joe Biden. Joe Biden prizes himself on being a union guy. He's supposedly the front runner for the president of the United States. Well, I mean, for the Democrats, right? Trump is going to beat anybody that goes forward. But I don't see Joe Biden winning the nomination. He is the scum of the earth. He seems to be losing it. Like, I don't know. Doesn't seem to be as sharp as he was. Never really sharp, but he was even less sharp. But he's successful because he's so charming, right? He'll grab people's shoulders and hair if you're a woman or a girl. But he's a white-hating, Christian-hating, pathetic, cowardly, fake, lying, sleazy, kissing up to the blacks, pretending to be a union guy. I mean, yeah, pretending to be for the workers, just like what the unions do. So that's Labor Day for you. Anyways, you guys can call in 888-775-3773. And I want to get to a fact that I presented yesterday, imperfectly, of course, because I was just doing it off of memory, about the California's homicide history. It didn't used to be as crazy as it is today, and as it was in the 90s even, and 80s and 70s. There's this lie going around that crime has only gone down throughout history. Jesse interviewed one guy, an ex-cop from Baltimore, who supported Black Lives Matter, and he dislocated his shoulder driving around a corner or something, or lifting a desk or something, and he had to leave the police. Now he's more like pro-Trump, but anyways, he said that crime has only gone down throughout history, and I don't believe that to be true, because crime really spiked as this out-of-wedlock birth stuff started happening. And I have facts to report to you guys. Some of you like facts that from the antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood, from Jesse Lee Peterson's book. So I'll get to that in a sec. But let me get to some calls first. Craig, out of Chicago, Illinois. How are you doing, Craig?
Hey, Hake report, the Great White Hope, number 2. What's up, man?
Not much, Craig. Good to hear from you.
Hey, I heard you talking with just this morning regarding unions. And, you hit the nail right on the head about these unions, because they don't care about Republicans, especially with the rhinos. But I'm just saying, with conservatives, I'm with a union and I hate it. I paid all this money, all this year, because I'm a teacher sitting at a high school, and I don't see no help that I'm getting. But then I have to just be my own rep, because they don't help you. They just take all your money and just say, okay, you got a job. You go sit down somewhere. Why
Yeah.
are you like that?
I think that unions they become very entitled. The people that promote being in unions and the union leaders and stuff, they take your money, and then if you don't want to take your money, they'll be like, well, you ever heard of the 2-day weekend? Thank the unions for that, because I guess that they brought Saturday and Sunday off as opposed to just 1 day a week off. It used to be,
Right.
Work 6 days, take 1 day a week off. But they brought Monday through Friday work week, right? 5-day work week.
Right.
And then they brought other stuff, supposedly. 8-hour work day. 8 hours of work, 8 hours of recreation, and 8 hours of rest is what the notion was. And they've brought all these things, and we've been brainwashed to accept them. But they are not that good for it. Yeah, there's some good that you can glean from it, I guess. But they're not good. It's not right. It's just corrupting. It's addressing an evil, say, like an employer taking too much advantage of the workers, I guess. Maybe happened, right? They address one evil for another. And so evil people can't correct evil. That's why you don't accept anything from the Democrats that they support. Because they're evil people. Their gun control is going to be evil. Their addressing of the abortion thing. They pretend they want to reduce abortions. And all they do is just give birth control. So now we don't have enough babies. So it gives them an excuse to truck in a whole bunch of illegals and immigrants and refugees and all that crap. So they bring false solutions that just make stuff worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish we had more leaders like you guys that on the conservative end around the world today, you know, especially in the United States, because if we had more leaders like yourself and Justin and, you know, all people that's on the side of right instead of the side of wrong, I think this world would be a better place because, you know, a lot of things that I've seen that I'm not liking. And, like, when you get, like, not most, I mean, well, most, I'm going to have to put it this way, most black people, when they get into these little positions of power, you know, they have that ego trip.
Yeah.
And then they start to turn against their own, you know, they get their own, and then they, you know, it's not like I'm turning against my, well, the truth is, it's wrong, okay, for them to get their homies in there and get them these jobs and all that stuff.
Right.
And then you have other candidates that's other than color that's qualified for the position. So what I'm saying is I'd rather work for a Caucasian person than a black person because a black person, they don't have it all. You know, they're almost like an Obama in my perspective.
You know, that's how the Hispanics are, too. They're all about the hookup, many of them, most of them, I would say. They do the same thing, and then the blacks and Hispanics fight amongst each other over discrimination against each other, and then, they fight, hit and kill each other, too. But, like, there's a restaurant out here called Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, and I think that, if I remember right, I think a black guy sued the employer for favoring Hispanics over him. And it's such a mess because we know the state of black workers is not the best. And then there's this false propaganda that Mexican workers are very good workers, right? They do show up to work. Sometimes they're drunk. They pretend to be busy. Some of them are good. But they're not as good as is stereotyped to be. So it's a whole mess because you have evil people fighting amongst each other. And it's a mess. I appreciate it, Craig. Yeah, I think
James,
people are waking up.
James, one more thing.
All right.
I saw a video of you and Justin. You guys were out there protesting, man. I love the way you guys were out there doing that, man.
Nice.
That was very cool of you guys, man.
Yeah, that's the Straight Pride.
You guys, man.
That was the Straight Pride protest. We have it on our YouTube channel, Jesse Lee Peterson.
I like that, man. We need more of that around here, man.
Yeah, me too. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, man. I know you got calls, man, but thank you, man, for your time, brother.
All right, you too. Take care, Craig.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Let's go to Sal out of Denver, Colorado. Sal, how are you?
All right, James. Thanks for working on the holiday so we can have something to listen to.
Right on.
I wanted to say that everyone needs to know that in 1990, Joe Biden was the one that spearheaded the campaign for schools to be gun-free zones, even though there had been almost no problems regarding that before all that. And now the Mormon church on a national level has said, you cannot bring guns to our churches. I'm sure that's not going to stop people from coming in with guns if they want to hurt them, but I'd rethink being a Mormon if that's how it's going to be. If I were one, I am not.
Yeah.
I'm not judging them, but I think that that's really bad, It's very scary, and it's bad enough that it's dangerous to go to church nowadays. It shouldn't be worse by keeping good guys from having guns to stop things.
Yeah, totally. It's so wrong. So Joe Biden pushed for. Did he push for
Yeah.
gun-free zones in schools?
Yes, he started
Wow.
this in 1990. He was the biggest Democratic supporter of it, and his people are the ones that made this so.
See, that's false.
We need to make sure that we let everyone know about this. I had heard about this from
I'll look into that.
Dally. She's, I think she's from Utah. She's a Mormon, pretty conservative. You may want to look into her. She's just terrific. Jesse should totally interview her.
All right, I
think
appreciate that.
You should interview her first, because you are the only person in all of the radio conservative industry who brought up why Jeffrey Epstein's female victims, what happened to their parents, and why are their parents not paying attention to what's going on with their own children.
Yeah.
You're the only one of all the people that have brought this up, and I thank you for it.
Right on, Sal.
People
I
need to
appreciate
know.
that. Cool,
I
man.
hope you have a good Labor Day.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for the great show, man.
All right. Thank you, Sal. Take care. You know, he brought up he called it a holiday. And holiday means holy day. I don't know if this is such a holy day. Maybe all days are holy, right? I don't know. But he brought up the Jeffrey Epstein thing because I had criticized the so-called victim of Jeffrey Epstein, who also participated in, she admitted, I forget what her name was, but she participated in recruiting more girls younger than her. And then she wasn't going to speak up until the cops actually showed up, or the international or federal police type people actually showed up and said, we've identified you as a victim, you got to cooperate. But she was actually partly perpetrator too. And so she was like a 16-year-old, I think, or 15 or something, homeless. No, not homeless. Runaway. She was a runaway working at the Mar-a-Lago. And I'm sure Trump didn't know about this, right? But anyway, she was a runaway. What's she doing being a runaway? And then she was recruited, allegedly, by Epstein's ex-girlfriend / madame, alleged madame. So all these women are involved, and then this girl, who's now a grown woman in her 30s, a mother now, married, living overseas, she says these girls are not going to be quiet, and we're going to speak up for these girls so that these guys or men don't get away with it. But what about her? And she is guilt-ridden about it, but she's not going to suffer any actual legal consequences or whatever. She was an adult by the time that she was, grooming the girls, according to her. So, and then he brought up some point about the unions and stuff. I forget what it was. Oh, the gun-free zones? That is so evil. If Joe Biden really was a part of that, and it makes sense, right? See, false solutions. These blacks that were probably the ones that were bringing the guns to the schools and shooting up places because that was the crack epidemic. Even the Democrats were trying to crack down on crime. That's why Clinton cracked down on crime. That's why Hillary called them super predators. No conscience, no empathy. So they were cracking down on crime, and so were the black leaders too. They wanted heavy policing. They wanted the blacks in jail, meaning the ones that were doing the drug dealing and murders and all that stuff during the crack epidemic, which was marked by violence, murders, high murder rates, crazy murder rates, like double, triple what they are today. And so they brought in all of these false solutions like, oh, gun-free zone. Yeah, right. That means ducks in a barrel zone, where he saved the blacks by making all schools gun-free zones, but then he killed the whites by, the whites go snap and shoot up the schools, or whoever. Some of them were Asians, like the Virginia Tech guy. Anyways, false solutions. Don't listen to Democrats ever. Never agree with them. Even if they say something that may be factual, put it in your own way. Don't join forces with them. Don't join forces with Ilhan Omar just because she says something that you agree with about Israel, or anything else. Anyone else? All right. I'm done. And Ilhan Omar does hate white people. Tim, first-time caller out of Twin Cities, Minnesota. Thanks for holding, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Fine, thank you. How about you?
Good. Good. Just enjoying the day. Yeah, I was just calling regarding out here locally. There was a talking about the one of those new immigrants. He was out here and met a girl online. She was 14 and ended up beating her up and raping her. And when they caught him and they're talking to him, and he's acting like it's something totally normal, you know. I think he's probably Somalian, something like that.
Yeah.
And got the, I just read the article and the link, and then you got all the Ilhan supporters out there saying that he's a victim of America, and it's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's being ethnocentric to enforce the laws against rape and sexual assault and stuff or whatever. I don't even like the word sexual assault, right? But yeah, that's crazy. They, over in Europe or somewhere, maybe England or Germany, they have like these signs in the subways explaining to immigrants, the rape refugees, that you shouldn't be groping the women and stuff like that. They literally have to retrain these people from a totally different culture, but they're willing to make the sacrifice because the whites are not having the babies, and so they want to truck these people in to support the aging population. It's so evil.
I know it. And I just wonder what they're, this guy, he's over 18, so it's like they're probably going to slap him on the wrist and just set him back out, and it's like they can't do anything to him because he didn't know any better. That's what they're going to say,
Yeah, it's these, and these are Muslims. They're not from a normal culture, meaning American-friendly culture, or Christian-friendly, or...
Correct, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a totally different situation. And then the women are dressed like such sluts that they, it's like asking to be manhandled in that way. It's a shame.
Yeah, they always blame the victim. They say that it was always something that they were asking for, and it's like, no, it's like that's not correct. It's like,
well, in a way, it sometimes is correct. It's both. You got to blame both because they don't have any business dressing the way that they do nowadays. But you're right. These, oh man, it's just a big mess. It's evil people fighting amongst each other.
Yeah, I hear it, man. I just wanted to get that out there because I know the mainstream media doesn't cover any of that, but it's factual and it's out there. I tweeted you a link to it. So,
appreciate that. We'll check that out.
Cool, man. Well, have a good day.
All right, you as well, Tim. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Let's see. Duncan, first-time caller out of San Francisco, California. How are you?
Hi.
Hey.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you. How about you?
Hey, I don't want to talk too long. I just wanted to say that, one of the things that made me sick, I am part of the union, but, they print out pamphlets that they give to employees that tell you who to vote for, and it's basically Democrat all the way down the line.
Yeah.
There's no other way to explain it.
Yep.
It's kind of, I've seen them, and I've seen a pile of them, and I just threw them in the trash.
Right on.
Because that's where they belong. But there are also a lot of people of all race and colors. I'll tell you, black, white, Mexican, that, I'll talk to them, and I tell them straight up. I'll give them facts and stuff, and all of a sudden, I've had people say, oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yep.
And, all of a sudden, they come back, and they're different people. You can see that they'll start talking politics with me. A lot of people, they're just not engaged in politics, so they don't know. They only know what they hear and what they see, and it's proof that the media does, manipulate. What's the word?
Yeah, manipulate.
Manipulate people and
Yeah.
it is effective.
Right.
But
Totally.
when people start getting told the real facts, they start looking into them. And, I know a lot of guys of all race and colors, and I'll tell you, I work with probably about 75% black, maybe 25% Hispanics, and the rest white.
Yeah.
And, dude, we all get along. We all work together. But when we talk politics, all of a sudden there's a problem.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who want, even I've turned some people on, and like they start hearing some facts, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, it's mind blowing to them.
Yeah. The unions, I have more respect for them, as even when they're liberals, the union workers, because they don't tend to have gone to these far left liberal college education stuff. And even the ones of color, they're at least working, right? Most of them, even if they have kind of cushy situation with the union, overpaid, too much vacation time, too much break time, stuff like that.
I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, I know, but it's just reality. Even though all of that is the case, they tend to be a little bit more down to earth, less far gone, and in some cases, they will wake up. And like regular blacks and regular Hispanics that aren't brainwashed, fully indoctrinated in that so-called educated out of their mind, I
hear you.
They can see that Trump is real, for example. That's why he wins the unions.
Yeah.
And they can see when you're real with him.
And Trump's realness is one of the things that actually I've noticed that whether they admit it or not, a lot of union guys appreciate. They like the realness.
Yeah.
And they also like that. I'll tell you something. We've been busier than shit. We're moving boxes from, I don't care where they are, China or not. We're moving boxes at a higher volume than any time I've seen in history.
That's nice. Happy Jacks under Trump. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
All right. I'm going to let you go, and it was nice talking to you.
All right. Thank you, Duncan. Take care.
You too.
He's millennial, I think. We've been busier than blank. Justin out of Little Rock, Arkansas. First-time caller. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. Fine. Thank you.
Listen, man, this call is like kind of to allude to what the last caller was talking about. Like, this is only a shout out to you and your channel. Between you and Jesse, man, like, that's why people listen. And it's because, like, regardless of a demographic that you should abide by, you guys just speak the truth, man. And I'm not even a Trump supporter, right? But I will always commend you guys on your stance because you say it how you feel it. And that to me that's gold.
Right on,
so
man. Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing regardless of if I'm, in dissent or not. You keep spitting that truth as you know it, and you're always going to be where you are.
Cool, man. Thank you. Appreciate that,
Yes,
Justin.
sir.
Why aren't you a Trump supporter out of curiosity?
If you want the truth, the second Super Tuesday, I fell apart. When Bernie was running, Bernie was my man.
Oh.
Right? And then the entire world told everybody before the second Super Tuesday, Bernie had already lost.
Yeah.
And he was winning 70% of California. And then when that broke, nobody even went to the polls. Nobody went to the polls.
Oh. So they deflated the electorate.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You've got a man that's 50-50 with Hillary and losing 90% plus of this. Okay, let's get our crowd out.
Though,
super delegate.
You know, isn't it a
What is
shame?
this?
What did you think about Bernie bending the knee to Hillary and caving and betraying his supporters like that?
No, I mean, come on, man. That was Bernie's election. And the Democratic Party, the party allegedly of the people, took it from Bernie.
I wanted to see Bernie versus Trump. It was like capitalism
Amen.
versus
Me
socialism.
too.
But, you
Yeah.
know, what did you think of Bernie becoming basically caving to establishment Democrats? They've
He
caved to
didn't- I
him,
don't
too,
think
I
he
admit.
caved.
He's,
I don't think he caved.
you don't?
He got,
Interesting.
If anything, he got, you know, they killed the man before he even had a chance.
You know what? You know when, in my mind, that Bernie lost? He lost when he surrendered his stage up in Seattle or somewhere to those wild, loud,
Nah,
angry
man.
Black Lives Matter.
I know what you're talking about.
The
I know
Black
what
Lives
you're-
Matter?
I mean,
You saw that?
no. Yeah, of course I saw that. And
What did you think of that? Did you respect him for that?
I mean, what's he gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, he gave his platform up. That's cool. But
Let me
if you
let me
look at
ask
the
you.
numbers-
Do you see Trump ever caving and surrendering his platform
hell
to?
No, hell no, hell no.
Which one do you respect
Because-
more? Which one do you respect more, caving or not caving?
Bernie.
Bernie?
Bernie.
What about that situation though? What about caving?
I look. I know I'm in this tent on this
Yeah.
channel. I get that, but what's the man to do?
He didn't have to do that. He could have stood up to those black women and
what? And caused a fight?
no, it wouldn't have
At
caused
his
a
own-
fight because those black
You
women, they're
don't
not.
I think it would have caused a fight.
I do not respect him for surrendering his stage like that. That was so pathetic. His staff is pathetic. He's pathetic.
This isn't the reason he lost. Is my only point.
Well,
He
okay,
lost
I'll
because-
tell you that's why he lost. That was a sign to me.
No.
That was a sign to me.
No.
Let me
no
just finish.
stat would tell you
That was a
that.
sign to me of his weakness in not standing up for himself. So then
No,
when Hillary and the media basically undermined him and sabotaged him, and the Democrat Party sabotaged him, he wasn't going to stand up for himself.
You know, you have my utmost respect, but
Yeah.
that was not why he lost. He lost because the world said on the second Super Tuesday, you don't have to go vote in California because Hillary's already won.
Let me
That
tell
was
you. Let me
every-
tell you one more. Let me give you one more comment about that. Which, yes, you're right that the media purposely undermined. Right? They said they tried.
Yes.
They tried to
Thank you.
deflate the voters. Whose fault is that on the part of the voters for listening to that nonsense?
What can the voters do if you're really running 50-50 with Hillary Clinton and you're losing 9 out of 10 super delegates? What
You know what?
do?
You know what? Let me just tell you. The cards were just as
it's a
stacked
great
against
game,
the
man.
cards were just
It's
as
a great
stacked
game.
against Trump. Everybody was predicting a Trump loss, like 82% or 90-something% to whatever, that Trump was going to lose, right? But his voters came through for him. They didn't listen to the media. They knew that the media were liars.
I get that. I get that for sure.
Anyway, Justin, I appreciate it. Very interesting input. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Call again. Have a good
All right.
Have a good Beta-Commie day. I'm not calling you Beta. I'm just calling it a commie day.
All right.
All right. Take care. Let me see. I wanted to talk about how dishonest the media is, but first, let me go to Christopher out of California. How are you, Christopher?
Hey, how's it going, James?
Going fine, thank you.
Good. Yeah, well, that was an interesting call. Let me just try to get my wits about me here. Have you heard about this story about Joel Shoemacher? Do you know who that is?
It doesn't. It sounds so familiar, but I'm not sure who that is. Is that like a producer or something?
Yeah,
filmmaker.
Yeah,
okay.
I think he's a movie producer or he's a director or something
He
like that.
made Batman
but,
and Robin and Batman Forever and Lost Boys.
Yeah, that's
falling down.
It's got to be the worst Batman movie ever made. But that's a side issue.
The Governator was in it.
Came out. I'm sorry?
I said the Governator was in Batman and Robin as Mr. Freeze.
Arnold it was
Schwarzenegger.
Terrible. Mr. Freeze.
Anyways.
Yeah, it was terrible. Anyway, yes, we'll get to the point. He's recently come out and said that he's had sex with 20,000 young men.
Yikes. That's bad, man.
Yeah.
He came out and admitted that?
Yeah, no, it's like a new.
If that's true, man, if that's true, that's a filthy thing to admit. Was he bragging or was he admitting?
20,000.
Was he? Anyways, I'm not really interested, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he was bragging or if he was just being matter of fact about it. 20,000 is a ridiculous number.
Yeah. So you haven't really looked into it either, into like the details of what he was saying and why?
Oh no! I haven't fleshed out any of the details. I heard that it's come out and it's kind of blowing up online. So
man,
the story.
Man, this is part of another example of evil people attacking evil, right? Because in Hollywood, a lot of the men in Hollywood are like sex crazy, and but this is just part of the attack on men. So this type of thing, when this type of thing comes out, it becomes, I don't know what he did or why what he said or why, but when this type of stuff comes out, it becomes another excuse for the women and the beta males to hate on men, and I don't encourage on us who want to stand for what's right on joining forces with them or helping in the destruction of this man or whatever's going on, because it's all to elevate women and pretend like they're the angels, which they're not. They're every bit as evil, if not more, as than the men who are doing this stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I do believe that there is something at work to try to turn women against men, and men are being hated, and it's not.
And so they're using these. They're using these bad examples for men, right? Like Epstein. Epstein apparently was a total beta male.
About a gay Jewish man having sex with other men. I don't think women really come into the picture.
Right. Yeah. Anyways, Christopher, I appreciate it. Take care. Kevin, out of Connecticut. How are you, Kevin?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, I was just returning the information on that caller that was talking about the gun control zone.
Yeah, gun-free zones.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit up on Wikipedia. I'm just coming to basically concur his statement. Biden did actually bring that into existence in October 29, and then it was passed in the Senate the same month, and then it passed the House of Representatives that same month, and then the one that actually signed into law was George Herbert Walker Bush.
Okay, that was
November 29, 1990.
1990. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at this report from Big League Politics that surfaced in May, that Joe Biden's introduction of gun-free school zones act comes back to haunt him. In a recent tweet, Turning Point USA guy took a shot at Joe Biden for creating gun-free zones in America. Gun-Free School Zones Act of 1990. He was responsible for introducing it. And this guy from Turning Point says Biden has done more to allow school shootings than the NRA or any Republican has. And that's true. That's a very good point, man.
Well, if you think about it, the whole agenda of this is it's not really, because if you was to look at the states that have red flag laws, right, or that actually has it going into or looking on it into a bill, Texas actually has that bill in motion.
Wow.
It's just not really signed into law as official bill.
Yeah.
But they have that, and that's still happening. So if you go because I live in Connecticut, all right, and right down 20 minutes down the road is where that massacre happened in Sandy Hook.
Yes.
All right. Before that, it was a red flag. It was a red flag state.
Wow.
Red flag law state.
Meaning they can take your guns away if you seem crazy.
Yeah, but then again, it don't matter because then you have knives, you have cars,
Yeah.
you have bombs. Walk into a building, blow it up.
And these people fight for the rights, so-called, of homeless people, so-called mentally ill people. They promote being mentally ill. Everybody's practically bragging about being mentally ill nowadays. And then they defend it, too, saying mentally ill people don't commit the crimes. And it's true, angry people do. But anger leads to both mental illness and violence and, killing and stuff like that. So it's a mess. I appreciate you looking that up. Gave me the opportunity to confirm.
Not only that, but I have another question too.
Okay.
I was listening to the Jesse Lee Peterson show on Friday, and thank God I got a hold of him today. Was that was really Trump that called?
Oh yeah, the Great White Hope.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what it is that people keep forgetting, and I'll leave you with this. People forgetting that Trump is not a Republican or a Democrat.
He's just a real guy.
He's not part of any of the establishment. That's why they hate him, because he's not part of the establishment, and because he's basically trying to take down. If you read the book called Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, it's from Judge Pirro. It's a good book. It goes all the way down to like Obama, because if you go back to the Spygate, right? People don't want to say this on like the news, right? Besides Fox, it was. If people want to point fingers who actually interfered in the Trump election, okay, it was Obama's administration that did a majority of it. Russia had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man. And then you constantly have the media colluding with the Democrats to help the Democrats win. Constantly.
Well, there's
so corrupt.
A book out there on that. It's called Unfreedom of the Press by Mark. You ever heard of Mark Levin?
Yeah.
I tell you what, he is the same thing with Sean Hemming. They are right on. The thing is that it's going to be a surprise in 2020, because these black people are going to start to continue to wake up and say that these Democrats are not for them. Because if you go to every one of the districts, and I looked this up myself, the 10 worst cities, poverty cities in the United States.
Yeah.
All right. Guess who's running them?
Democrats, black Democrats.
All of them.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, Kevin.
Well, you have a good day, sir, and God bless.
All right, you too. Happy Labor Day.
That's funny.
All right, bye. Let me just report real fast, and then I'll get back to calls, Proxy, Ryan, and the rest. California's homicide history. Let me get to this real fast. 1953, California had how many? 276 homicides. 26 years later, in 1979, California had nearly 3,000 homicides. Now, that's 10 times as many, but there was also an increase in the population. So, per population, it was 6 times the murder rate per capita. From 26 years, it just, boom. Incidentally, the Crips founders were born in 1953, when there were only 276 homicides. And then they started the Crips in 1969, the same year of the Charles Manson killings. And I actually have the excerpts. Let me read them to you briefly. Let's go through this. Fatherlessness. This is an excerpt from Jesse's book, The Antidote. Fatherlessness was taking its toll on more than just South Central Los Angeles. Charles Manson arrived in Southern California just before Jesse Lee Peterson did. The fatherless product of a seriously screwed up home, Charles Manson nurtured the suppressed anger of a colony of lost youth, and then they killed a bunch of people. Mass murders. A pair of brutal mass murders under his cult thing. So that's the white one. I guess Charles Manson is white, right? And then in South Central LA, the violence was less spectacular. I'm moving to the next, skipping over some words. In South Central LA, the violence was less spectacular, but steadier and deadlier. The same year as the Manson killings, a pair of 16-year-olds, Raymond Washington and Stanley Tukey Williams, idolized by the blacks, launched a lethal neighborhood association called the Crips, of which Snoop Dogg was a member or is a member. So violent were the Crips that unaffiliated gangs in the area felt the need to band together. So began the Crips versus the Bloods, and more young Americans, most of them black, would die in this war than the gang war, rather than both Gulf Wars combined. And Jesse moves on and says, when he arrived, South Central did not look like a ghetto. It was nice. And there was blacks. They weren't ghetto. But in 1953, the year that both Washington and Williams were born, like I said, the state of California had 276 homicides, and South Central was scarcely more dangerous than any other parts of town. So, 1979, Stanley Washington, the Crips co-founder, was shot dead, and Tukey Williams killed 4 innocent people, which led to his eventual execution by lethal injection. That year, 1979, nearly 3,000 Californians were murdered, 10 times more than in 1953, and a stunning 6 times more per capita. South Central was now at the epicenter of violence. 1979, and it got even worse into the 90s. And then we'd introduced, 3 strikes laws, 3 strikes, broken windows policing, and all that stuff. But what happened to change this stuff? He talks about, and Jesse talks about, the 1960, the feds changed the Aid to Dependent Children program to the Aid to so-called families, which is really mothers with dependent children. Fathers need not apply. Stay out, fathers. And so that helped spur on the, I thought women weren't violent, but they certainly raise violent kids, huh? That's an excerpt from the Antidote, chapter 5 of the Antidote. It's called The Road to Damascus. That was the chapter number. And Jesse talks about these people introducing these false solutions. He calls them alchemists. Thank you. Hey, somebody read the book or knew. Thank you, Nick. So, just wanted to point that out. And then I'm going to hopefully get to this Washington Post is trash. But first, let me get to Proxy out of Seattle, Washington. First-time caller. How are you, Proxy?
Good. How are you? Happy Beta-Commie Day.
Nice. Happy Beta-Commie Day. Oh, yeah, man.
So I just want to start off by kind of how Jesse does. I believe that we're certainly fighting a spiritual battle of good and evil. And when you look at everything that's transpired, what you just pointed out, crime rate spiking in California. When you really look into it, you see that it's really evil in human form, working in various parts of our government.
Yeah.
And deep state's been around for a while. I believe that Israel and the Jews have some part in that. And Jesse commented the other day at the Straight Pride event about Israel. You have the left attacking Israel. But I think that's all a distraction. And I believed at one point that Trump was the great white hope.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing what he's done for Israel and how Israel has infiltrated our government and kind of only grew exponentially over time, it's kind of concerning me. Trump's putting Israel first and not America. And
how is he putting Israel first and not America first? I hear you guys saying that a lot.
Funding and by fighting proxy wars through Israel.
What proxy wars is he fighting?
My concern.
What proxy wars is he fighting?
None yet. It's all rampant up.
Because you'll notice that he doesn't jump into these wars the way that the others have.
Yeah,
what I've heard is he's not even really a John Bolton follower, where John Bolton, who's in his administration, right, the national security guy.
Yeah.
He's I've heard recently, I saw a headline that John Bolton is kind of being left out of some of these national security meetings because Trump does not fall for that stuff. America's been funding Israel since before Trump. I don't see how you can say that Trump is putting Israel first, before putting America first. I think that you're being brainwashed just like the left was brainwashed.
No, not really. I'm just.
Yeah, because you haven't because you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just saying that.
No,
and they all say that. Like you guys all say that. It's like a cult.
No, not at all. I mean, if you really look at the Jews, they don't.
I know that, but they've been rising to power for over 100 years. What are you complaining? What are you complaining about Trump for?
Our Federal Reserve, they own our entire infrastructure.
That's fine. That's fine. That's your fault. That's your parents' fault. And why are you blaming Trump for it? You haven't given me anything about Trump. You're just blaming. It's so pathetic, man. You notice that's hey, Proxy. You notice that's pathetic, right?
Why is that?
Because you're making up stuff about another man who's actually fighting and doing something for America, and you're sitting here like a loser.
I'm not saying he isn't.
You're sitting here like a loser, criticizing him from the grandstands, and you're complaining about Israel and the Jews, when Israel is, there's good and evil fighting within inside of Israel too.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, but they've got drag parades and
of course
a crazy breakdown over there. But at any rate, I was calling to get what your views were on Israel and its relation to the U.S.
The same thing as what I've been saying, man. They are a mixed bag, and yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that so many of them tend to have this victim mentality where they fearmonger about so-called anti-Semitism. It's just the same thing as the blacks and the Muslims cry more about Islamophobia than terrorism, and the blacks cry more about so-called racism than the stuff that they're doing wrong. And then I see them the same way that I see the alt-right people that hate the Jews, because the alt-right don't want to look at themselves. The Jew blamers don't want to look at themselves.
No, I agree, and I'm not saying I hate the Jews, not by any stretch.
Yeah, you do though. You do, because you're not. You hate Trump. You hate Trump. You call them Israel first as opposed to America first. That's a slanderous. That's a slanderous hate. That's not love. To just make something up.
I never said I hated Trump. He's done great things.
No, you don't have to say it. Nobody says that they hate anybody, right? Most of the time, but they do hate. Yeah, I don't think you're really being honest with yourself.
I don't feel hate.
You don't feel hate, but you do hate. Yeah, because you're not.
I'm just saying
you're like an NPC
about them.
You're being an NPC. You're not really thinking for yourself.
You just got to look into the facts. And,
no, but you didn't look into the facts when you said that. You didn't look into the facts when you said that President Trump is putting America first. Did you? You didn't look into the facts about it. You just repeated it because it's something that you've heard. It sounds cute. And now you're thinking like you're thinking for yourself, and you're undermining the support for Trump. What a slime snake.
No, not at all.
Yeah, totally. All right, man.
Trump's
I got to go, man.
All right, gas the kikes.
You hear that? What an idiot. All right, Ryan out of Concord, California. How are you?
I'm good, James. Happy Commie Day.
Happy Commie Day. You know, that guy that guy that I just hung up with is a tool for the commies. Did you notice that? Because he pretended, I don't hate. And at the end, he repeats his stupid thing. Anyways, go for it, Ryan.
No. I was going to call and talk about Ilhan Omar, but I actually kind of want to elaborate on a lot of this Jew hating, because I actually used to fall into this victim mentality myself.
Yeah.
So when I first started watching politics was when Trump was running in 2015 to 2016. And I started getting online, kind of doing the whole meme troll thing with Pepe and all those videos and all the memes, and
yeah,
it was fun stuff. But on a lot of those pages on Facebook, people were posting videos about a movie called The Greatest Story Never Told.
Yeah.
It's actually this long 6-hour documentary. And at first I kind of saw it with an open mind, but then it turned me to hate Jews in a lot of ways, because it was a very biased video in the sense of how it blamed all Jews. And I really like what your point says, or what you said earlier, because that's kind of how I felt. What you said earlier is, well, blame your ancestors then, because they're the ones who allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
And you can't just sit here in life and blame other humans for the downfall of your culture.
Yep.
So, like, for the Romans, for example, the Romans were being overtaken by the Christians and the Christian culture, and they eventually made the official religion of Rome into Christianity. And so if Romans didn't want that, they could have stood up for it and, been great like their ancestors were. But there's just so much blame that goes around, and a lot of, white people kind of, like, get fed up, and they want to hate an entire group of people instead of knowing that, of course, there are bad Jews, but there's also really good Jews. In fact, I have a friend, Aaron, and he's a great friend of mine, and he's Jewish, and I know, he's middle class. He wouldn't do anything like that. He's not a greedy banker, and
man,
neither is his father.
Yeah. What the difference is between these guys and, say, Jesse, is Jesse calls out all people, all races, and all cultures, including Jews, including blacks. They pretend not to hear when he criticizes the Jews, but he calls out all people, and it's out of love. They're calling it out of hate. They can't admit that they do hate, and they're brainwashed by they're brainwashed against accepting any notion of hate, because they, the left uses the word hate too, right? And and so there's a false imitation of calling out hate, but Jesse's real, but they don't see that. Some of them do. Some of the alt-right have awakened up and snapped out of it. Some Jews have awakened up and snapped out of it. Some Muslims, and so all people are waking up because they see genuine people like Jesse, like Trump, and they're not falling for what they used to fall for. And so, and some people fall from liberalism into the alt-right. Most of the alt-right are ex-liberals. They're not ex-conservatives.
Right, I actually noticed that.
Yeah, they're not ex-conservatives. Because conservatives are no geniuses either. They're not good people either. They're a false imitation, and it's no wonder that they're sick of conservatives. I don't blame the alt-right for attacking so-called conservatives, because the conservatives have been weak for so long. But there's a real way to go about it that is right, and Jesse seems to be following it. Trump seems to be, imperfectly, I guess, because there's some things that I disagree with. But and then other guys are waking up. So it's encouraging to see that.
Right.
Yeah, man.
I like what you said about a lot of these alt-right people are actually leftists. Dinesh D'Souza basically declassified the guy that was the Charlottesville organizer. He was an Occupy movement guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he led the entire Occupy movement, and then so-called switched over to the right, and now he actually is still against, banks and Jews and whatnot. But I wanted to kind of go back to that point about the Jew haters, because in that movie, The Greatest Story Never Told, there's a part in the scene that actually really is a very grotesque part, and it's in Berlin in the 1920s. And basically when a Jewish guy was in power in between World War I and World War II in Germany, there was a Jewish man in power. He was the leader. Britain implemented him after World War I ended. And basically, long story short, they turned Berlin into like decadence and Sodom and Gomorrah, and they released all these, sex movies, and homosexuality became so open, and polygamy became so widely available within like 5 to 10 years in such a Christian nation that it really like shocked the entire nation. Part of the reason actually why the Nazis were so angry at the Jews was, in fact, that reason. But I wanted to point out that, if our ancestors were strong enough, we wouldn't allow people like that to happen. We wouldn't allow ourselves to get into situations that would, be the downfall of ourselves. So reality, we have to ask ourselves, what did we do that was wrong? Because clearly, even if those Jews were bad, we were even worse for allowing them to do what they did. You know what I'm saying? And
in the Old Testament, you would read of God telling the Israelites all the time, maybe not all the time, but regularly, you're going to be overtaken by people worse than you, or less. In some cases, they were more deserving, and in some cases, they were less deserving. You're going to be conquered by people worse than you, and you're going to be subservient to them. And that's basically what's happened to the Christians now and the whites.
Right.
It's a shame.
I would also like to point out one last thing is you said that a lot of the alt-right people now kind of play victim. And I'm thinking maybe the reason why they do that is because they see how well it works for the left.
Yeah.
And now what they're doing is they're saying, well, if we do that, then maybe we can, do what the left is and be successful. But that's kind of like what you were saying with the whole Christian thing, because Christians now have to be a little bit more strong-willed, because we can't play victim and say, oh, well, they're attacking Christianity and, they're putting drag queens in libraries and all this stuff. And it's like, we're not doing anything to stop it. We're just watching it happen and complaining, and we're doing nothing about it. Well, at least some of us are. I know a lot of us are trying to stop it, but the Christians who complain are just as worse as the leftists.
I appreciate it, Ryan. Good input. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem, bro. Happy Commie Day.
All right, take care. So that's about it for this show. Let me just quickly show you this Washington Post is trash. They have this article linked from Drudge. Trump aides claim victory, but others see incompetence and intolerance. Another liberal word, right? So Washington Post article reposted by Greenwich Time. But these writers, Philip Rucker and Ashley Parker, described Trump's Independence Day salute to America, which was excellent, inspiring, right? As a July 4th salute to himself. But these people are so self-absorbed. They're the ones. It's not Trump who's self-absorbed. They said Trump leveled racist attacks against 4 congresswomen of color, dubbed the Squad. He derided the majority black city of Baltimore as rat and rodent infested. His anti-immigrant rhetoric was echoed in a missive that authorities believe is a mass shooting suspected posted. His visits to Dayton, Ohio, and El Paso, Texas after the shooting massacres served to divide rather than heal. His economy is also beginning to falter. Blah, blah, blah. Telling the truth, as Trump does, is racist, so claim these so-called journalists. But they're not objective, they're dumb. They're like in their mid-30s, losers, intellectuals, self-congratulating. They're like Pulitzer Prize winning, whatever. But they're just a bunch of fake people. You could call me fake, right? Or every now and then I'm dumb, right? These people are every bit as dumb. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.